Welcome back to another episode of Movie Flash, where Rick and I talk about some movies that we've seen that aren't necessarily a Hail Ming full hour, but are things we want to talk about. And this one was my pick. I saw it a while back, and I kind of pestered Rick into checking it out. A couple of our fans had mentioned how much they like it, and I really enjoyed it as well. It's the deadliest movie ever made, Antrum. Which is free on Tubi, and it has been for about a year now. But I really enjoyed it. I felt like it was worth talking about. And if you haven't checked it out and you're kind of a fan of that niche of found footage or, alternate reality kind of horror movies, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's got a different feel to it for sure, as far as what you expect out of the found footage thing, because it's supposed to be literally a lost movie from the 70s that you're going back and watching this film unfold. But the beauty that I have to agree with why I like this, because they do a good job of just setting the stage, right? Because they give you this fake documentary at the beginning of it about the history of this film and how they would show it to people, and people would react, and people were going crazy and killing people and because of this film.
Right. A couple of theaters, they had tragedies when they went to film it. And then a couple of people in film festivals that got like pre-copies of it, for some reason or another, were killed in some weird accident. So it's kind of this correlation. And they have people on there going, "Oh, I don't believe it's cursed," or "I think there are weird things about it." Like you said, they set the stage really well.
Yeah.
And then they launch in and they say, they have a little disclaimer that comes up, if something happens to you, it's not our fault, it's yours, because you're watching this, and, and here we go. You pointed out that the movie doesn't exactly look like a 1970s horror film.
I think it looks like it. I think it looks like it. The sound is too good is the problem.
Yeah.
So, but no, I think the look of it, I think, is fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I get it too, though, and rewatching it, you can tell that it's someone who has learned to make films today, making an homage to it, and trying to make it look like it's all fuzzy, and there are effects on the film and on the soundtrack too. Which, by the way, one of the problems we had with Milo was the little creepy piano music that runs all the way through it. In Antrum, they do the same thing to good effect. They have this haunting melody that is thrown in as music in the old one, and it kind of like an old film reel would.
Right.
But it does a good job of like kind of being off-putting. Yeah. It really sets the stage for that movie being kind of a creepy example of horror films from that era.
It's not the same five notes over and over and over, and I think that's true. Kind of what made it work too. So, but yeah, there's really a lot to like about this one. The fact of this boy loves this dog so much that he's willing to dig to hell to get him.
Right. Yeah. The plot of the movie, if you're not into spoilers, I recommend you just go check it out. I like it, and I will highly recommend it. But if you do want spoilers, just keep on it. The plot, there's a family problem where this dog went crazy and attacked the boy once, and they went and put it down, and the kid feels guilty because the dog was put down because of this, and he feels like it's his fault. And his mom, in an opportunity to say, well, she'll be all right, she went to heaven, his mom just straight up says, no, that dog went to hell.
That's true.
And all the family sequences are really off-putting too, because it always kind of segues into a dream sequence where blood starts dripping down people's face, or there's a point where they're in the car and then look up and there's nobody driving the car. And
I think that's one of the things that some of it really worked for me, some of it didn't, because you've got all this intercut scenes too that they put in.
Yeah.
But you're right. I just now remember you were talking about, they were riding in the car and they look up in the front seat and there's nobody at the driver, and the car is obviously moving,
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of strange things that are happening.
Yeah. So there are levels to it that kind of help it to develop this mythology. Like you said, there's the documentary at the beginning, and then in the documentary they say, oh, and we retrieved one complete roll of this film, but it was found at auction and it apparently went into the hands of this cult that held on to it for a while. And so there are these interspersed, like you say, little sections of some kind of torture that's going on. And there are these sigils that have been scratched into the film that show up throughout. I think one of them is Astaroth. It's like the demonic sigil for the highest echelon of demons. And it shows up something like 70 times or more in the movie.
It's a bunch.
It just kind of appears over things. And so again, it gives it those layers where, like, first it was a movie that was cursed. It was a horror movie to begin with. It went through the hands of a cult. They added things to it, and you got the documentary. So it's kind of like, at what level do you want to stop believing?
Yeah.
If you don't want to believe the documentary part, well, you can at least believe the cult part. If you don't want to believe the cult part, well, then maybe you just believe it's a horror movie. And so it gives you kind of an option of where you want to suspend your disbelief. And I really like that.
Yeah, it's got plenty of options. And, the fact of being able to find this manual of how to dig to hell and everything you have to have in place.
Yeah.
I don't know. And it gives you foreshadowing of what's coming up too. So
it's got a little chapters of the book thing where there's the malbulge and the layers of hell. So anyway, this older sister takes her brother to this park that's got a, don't kill yourself, suicide watch sign on the outside of it. So there's that. To ostensibly, dig down to hell so they can get Maxine's soul back up out of hell. And, the one part, of all the things to disbelieve, the fact that two kids with shovels could dig a hole that deep in the middle of a forest without hitting roots, that's probably the most difficult to believe parts for me. But and not be dirty as all heck, because man, they would be dirty.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then you got, like, as the story unfolds, they're digging this hole, and she's got this book that Ike gave her. She keeps mentioning Ike, and it has these instructions on how to get down to hell. And I don't know, about part of the way through, what do you feel about the little stop motion squirrel?
It was interesting.
There's a part where she's like, look, it's a demon. It's taken a form to hide from us. And it's this stop motion squirrel that looks at the camera, and it's like, what is this?
Well,
it's weird.
But you got to think about it for the time that it's supposed to be when it came out. If you were going to make a horror movie, chances are a creature was going to be stop motion. So it kind of works.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that it would have looked bad even then. So I don't know if it was just like it was the thought that the people making the movie did this, and they're like, this is weird, but it's kind of strange in a creepy way. So keep it.
Right.
So it's another one of those things where you just, why?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't fit the mold.
Well, but there's a lot of things I think about this movie that doesn't really fit a mold, that kind of makes it interesting. It really kind of flips, because you're getting this really heavy atmospheric, demonic kind of feeling thing going on where they're trying to dig, and you're seeing the chapters in the book and the foreshadow. And then you take the right turn at Albuquerque with the redneck devil worshippers,
Right.
There's this couple of guys that come out and shoot them and then captures them.
Yeah, they go wandering, and they find a guy trying to kill himself, and they convince him to stop, and the guy wanders off. And then they go a little further, and they find this big stove that looks like, the malbulge. It's like Satan, and it's got a big erection, and these two guys are on it. One of them who's, having congress with a dead deer while they show up. It's kind of, it's kind of, it looks like it belongs in Texas Chainsaw.
Sure.
These two guys are, and they're speaking some foreign language too, like some Eastern European sounding language. And it's a, like you said, it's a left turn. And those guys find them.
Going to take the kids and put them into the belly of the beast and burn them alive. And
they got them in these little makeshift cages. And
I mean, it really takes a different turn when it gets to here, but you're kind of like, okay,
yeah,
sure, why not?
Well, and it adds a real level of danger,
Yeah.
as opposed to what they're supposedly imagining, because you're looking at it saying, well, you guys aren't imagining all this because we as the audience are seeing it. But then you also add this level of, and now there's really a danger in that there are two guys murdering people out here in the woods.
Yeah. Yeah. And are they a part of this? Because if you look in the book, there's pictures that actually show these guys in there.
Yeah. Yeah. The demons. And supposedly the older sister made up the book and the whole hell thing to try and do this little
ceremony for her brother. Yeah.
Right. To do this field trip, and rescue Maxine's soul. And so the book is just a fabrication. She drew all the pictures. She wrote all the stuff. But like you said, one of the pages in the book has a picture of these two guys.
Everything that's in there is stuff that they're seeing as they go throughout.
And then, the boy says, she tells him all this, like, I made Ike up. I made all this up. And he says, you didn't make up Ike. I met Ike. And there's a flashback of the kid going into an alley and being beckoned by this ebony hand. And there's this, backlit character who, tells him that he's marked now. I think at that point, the Astaroth symbol appears over his face, and kind of, and it's creepy. I mean, I watched it on my phone over a couple of weeks the first time. Yeah. And there were some points where I was like, just put this down for a minute, like it just kind of
creeping you out.
And you say, yeah, I mean, like there's also like the Cerberus dog is mentioned, and he hears the dog, but they're looking for a dog, so he kind of goes out looking and finds a dog caught in a bear trap, and he frees her, and it's kind of a catharsis for him, that he was able to save a dog because his dog lost its life because of him.
Yeah. But that leads to the ending, which we're not going to give away. But at the same time, you can't have a movie like this and it not be some sort of different kind of ending. So, which I think is done very well as well because of coming off of what we're just talking about with him freeing the wolf. And
it could have been a happy ending. And they even throw a little fake the end in there right there. Yep. But then they keep the movie going.
But yeah, you get all these shots throughout, which are kind of creepy, where it's basically the demon face.
Yeah.
It kind of pop up and stare.
And there's a scene in there where this demon face is the only thing on the screen, and it's looking at the viewer.
Yeah, for a long time.
For a solid for a solid minute. I mean, it's a long time for that character just to be the only thing on screen looking at you.
Yeah. So yeah, very unnerving and almost to the point of where you're like, yeah, should I be watching this or
am I watching the movie or is the movie watching me is kind of, I think the what they're going for there. And I think they do a good job. I mean, I've seen a lot of attempts to make these movies, like with The Ring, they were trying to kind of bring something home to the real world that makes you legitimately, hide under your bed, And I think this did a good job of creating a movie that had so many levels to it, and they're all done really well. That it's worth mentioning. It's worth watching.
Sure. And of course, you're a bit more of a connoisseur of the lost footage films than I am.
I'm a fan, but yeah,
I like a handful of them.
Sure.
And I thought this one was pretty good.
There are a lot of really bad ones out there. And what I was impressed with was the quality of this one, because, they could have phoned in the old movie because it's it's old, but they didn't phone in any particular part of it. They did a good job of making it all high quality.
Well, here's what I recommend. If you're interested in checking this one out, check out Fury of the Demon first, which is a movie or a documentary about a movie that had this kind of effect on people. And it's a lost black and white type film, but the whole thing's just a documentary, because I really feel like whoever made this was possibly inspired by that as well.
Yeah.
I would check that out. I think it's a good counterpart to go with watching this movie.
It's awesome. And I'm glad you mentioned it to me, because I want to check it out. Just on the heels of this, I really did enjoy the whole feeling that this gave. after the movie ends, which again we won't give away, but it's pretty high tension at the end.
Yep.
There's a continuation of the documentary, and it talks about the whole film getting lost in a cult and all that part. And they explain some of the sigils, they say what they are, and they give some little stories about those. I think it's just really well put together to make it into, it adds a level of scary to the scary movie.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. It's another recommendation.
Yeah, I highly recommend Antrum. If you are a big fan of it, jump into the Facebook page. I'd love to talk with you about it. I know that we had some people mention it a while back when it first was, or at least when I first heard about it, and it led me to it. So thank you.
There you go. So yeah, let us know what you think about it.
All right. Well, that's it for Movie Flash. We hope that you enjoyed this recommendation. We hope that you watched it and enjoyed it as much as we did. And if you don't, well, then, you can just zip it up.
Adios, folks. Oh, sorry.
See you later. Oh, no, but really, for Movie Flash, I'm Danny.
And I'm Rick.
See you later.